Hey, everybody. I'm back from sunny Mexico, and it's time once again for our favorite story hour, the Innovation Storytellers Show. I'm your host, Susan Lindner. And you thought because you worked in innovation that you knew all there was to know about the big I, innovation, that place we live and play every day, that one big I. Well, our guest today is going to tell us that there are a couple of other I's that you are forgetting in this wild world of innovation, and how to really begin to get a grip on the process of innovation by making more people open to the process. So I want to introduce you to my phenomenal guest today, Natalie Turner, who's an experienced innovation specialist with more than 25 years working as a corporate innovation director, a business consultant, and an entrepreneur. She's worked for and consulted with some of the world's leading organizations like Cisco, GSK, Leo Pharma Asia, Edgewell, and the Singapore government, helping them build innovation systems, culture, and capabilities, and helping them generate new ideas to grow new businesses. As the founder of the Entheo network based out of Singapore, she made her passion for purpose and people-driven innovation practical. Ooh, I love that alliteration. As well as inspirational, to elevate people's thinking on not only what they can create, but how. The mind, the skill sets, and the culture environments that make everyday innovation happen. She is an award-winning author of her book, Yes, You Can Innovate, and a contributing author to Unleash Your Voice, Powerful Public Speaking for Every Woman. Natalie is the inventor of the 6 I's, and that is a model that helps people measure their innovation strengths so that they can harness diversity and have a greater impact from the new ideas they uncover. It also provides a clear journey map to help navigate uncertainty and develop new solutions that make them real. And who doesn't need that? Because theoretical innovation is just a dream. Isn't that right?
Absolutely.
Natalie, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. I'm absolutely thrilled to be talking with you today. So, Natalie, we all know the big I, but there are apparently 6 I's that we've been missing in the innovation scope. Can you fill in my listeners? What are the 6 I's that we should all be thinking about?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Susan, it's delightful to be here on your show, and thank you very much for inviting me. Okay, well, if we sort of unpack the journey of innovation, there are lots of different phases to it. So, from my research over the years, and also from practical experience in working in this field, I've sort of I've created a model called the 6 I's of innovation. So, we have identify. So identify is all about spotting those opportunities, seeing what's changing in the world around us. It's where we need the mindset of curiosity. It's where we need skills that are very outward facing and looking to be able to understand trends and patterns and make sense of those so that we can see possibility and opportunity. So identify. Then we have ignite, what we often equate with innovation, the creative part of the innovation journey, if you like. So there we have the mindset of creativity, and we also need skills that are good at generating ideas, of coming up with solutions. So the ignite phase. Then we have investigate. Investigate is all about testing and prototyping, researching, validating our ideas. Are they going to be useful, not just novel ideas? And we need that mindset of critical thinking. And very important, obviously, for testing and making sure that what we're going to do is actually going to create some sort of value. Then we have invest. And invest needs the mindset of courage. It's what I often call the graveyard of ideas, that our ideas often stop here because they can't either get funding or resource or backing to make those ideas happen. And we need certain skills that is very specific to the invest phase of the journey. Then we have implement, what I call the hard work of innovation. This is where we make something happen. Without implementation, there is no innovation. And we need that mindset of commitment, of seeing things through, of driving things into the world and enabling value to be created. And then we have improve. And the improve phase needs that sort of clever mindset. It's when we can look at something and see, wow, how can I do this differently or better? And again, a very discrete skill set is needed there to be able to help us to improve our ideas.
Well, I want to go back to that invest layer, because as you said, it is the place where sometimes great ideas go to die. And the first thing you said is that it requires courage. Are we talking about courage to ask for money? Are we talking about courage to invest in your, basically put your professional brand on the line when you discover a big idea
Mm.
that you want to push forward? Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, well, I think it could be either or and both, actually. I think when we think about innovating and doing new things, and that newness can be small or it can be big, it could be something that's quite a step change for an organization or for an individual, but there can be small acts of courage as well. And I think it's important to think about that because for some people, taking a small act of courage is a big thing. But absolutely, I think without courage, we never move forward. We never move out of our comfort zone. We stick with what we know. We stick with the products, the services that we have. We stick with ways of working. So for an organization to say, right, yes, I'm going to do this, and we're going to put resourcing behind it, we're going to back an idea. And of course, hopefully with calculated risk. It's not just about jumping off the cliff, but it is, you are still going to need courage to make those decisions. Hard, and sometimes they can be quite hard decisions. And I often find that this is the most tricky area. We can spend so much time dancing around, identify, ignite, even investigate. But actually, at the phase of invest, a lot of other people are normally getting involved, particularly in organizational life. There's a lot of stakeholders, there's a lot of influencing that needs to go on, there's a lot of resourcing, budgeting, and all of that, which, if it isn't done in a really powerful way and to enable innovation, things can stall and they can just stop, and work carries on as normal.
Yeah. And so, what's the advice to the innovator who has the big idea, has done their investigations, and is ready to hit that invest level? They have the courage. Next up is, how do we ask for what we need? Whether it's
Mm.
across silos and departments, whether it's asking the board for funding. How do we, over, once we have that courage, what next? Like, what's our next
Yeah.
step?
I think it's really interesting. It often reminds me of Oliver Twist, the story of Oliver Twist, when he goes up and he says, "Please, sir, can I have some more?" And it's like the invest phase, in a sense, becomes a bit like that sort of story. We spend all the time developing up our ideas, and then we go and ask someone. And as if it's a little bit late in the day in many ways. I think that if we can involve the investors far more in our sort of development of our ideas so that they're actually inputting ideas earlier on into the journey of innovation, by the time you actually come to get some resourcing or backing or influence, you've already developed those relationships and you've also included those sorts of stakeholders in the journey. So for example, let's take if we assemble a group of people together to work on some sort of new product development, instead of having all the people in the room that are just the insights people and the people that are the creatives, if you like, and they're sort of having a great time developing up their new concepts, etc., that you actually have people in the room that are going to be involved in some way or another in actually funding those ideas or being involved in that journey. And I think the earlier we can involve people, the better, the more likely we're going to get some traction when it comes to getting some backing and also some great insight from that perspective. Because as I said earlier, it's such a discrete skill set that is often not valued as much in the innovation journey until that point of people saying, well, no, I'm not going to back that, or no, that's not a priority, or no, let's work on something else. So I think that's one sort of recommendation that I would give.
Yeah, it's funny. I was listening to you and I heard three other eyes show up in the midst of this one, which was to invite other people to
Mm,
participate, to gain insights from those invitations, right? From those other voices that you hear from, and then influence those other folks around you to
yeah.
participate and then hopefully come with you to the big pitch.
Absolutely. Influencing is critical. And as part of this, the Six Eyes model, I have a profiling instrument that measures people's perception of their innovation strengths across the six eyes, if you like. And so different people obviously have different types of strengths. But what I find is some sort of pattern, particularly in people that say work in innovation roles within an organization, oftentimes they are high on identify and ignite, and they're attracted to roles that are strategic or creative, and they're very good at that. They're good at getting those ideas and seeing what the opportunities might be, but oftentimes they can also be lower on invest. And I've seen this sort of pattern in the data that people can spend a lot of time again doing those sort of opportunity identification and new ideas, but how they then influence the organization and bring the organization with them and influence them with ideas is often an area of development. And so influencing skills are just as much an innovation skill as the ability to be creative or to have lateral thinking ability, or great at prototyping or testing. And I think we need to raise up the profile of that and really help build the capability of people to sell their ideas through stories, through being able to sort of great examples, and to understand and have empathy for other people, whether that's the customer, but also the internal stakeholders that are going to be involved.
Yeah, critical. And the other is looking at the six eyes. So many of us are working in innovation cycles that are on really compressed timelines. Hear from guests on the show all the time that we're looking at a 6-week sprint, right? My leadership team wants to see results in 6 weeks. And if the result is this doesn't work, that's fine. Let's move on. But what do you think about applying the six eyes in kind of these very compressed timetables where leaders
Mm.
don't have a lot of time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think what can be quite good about it is that it gives people a common language and a journey map to the whole process of innovating. And I think if people know where they are in a given journey, they can start to map that out. And they can also start to say, we've spent too long in investigate. We need to make some decisions. We need to shift things on. It could be on into invest and then back into investigate or back to ignite. So it's not just a linear journey, as we know. When we're trying to do new things, we're iterating, we have to be agile, we move backwards and forwards. But people need to know, and particularly in working in teams, where are we, or where is the idea? Where is the idea on its journey, and what skills does it need? What mindsets does it need to help shape it, to move it along and forwards into application? So I think it can really help from both a process and practical project management perspective or innovation management perspective, but also from a sort of a mindset skills perception, if you like, of thinking about, have we got the right people doing the right thing in the right way, if you like, at the right time. I often liken it to like a relay race. So you might be in the run with the baton, and the baton is the idea, and you're the igniter. Yeah, you're the one that's come up with all the ideas, or you're sparking or catalyzing new ideas. But you need to know when to pass that on to either the investigator or the improver or whoever it might be to take the race, to move it on. So I think helping to have a plan and and a process within that can help to then speed up the whole process of execution to be able to then deliver on those ideas.
It's funny because I hear you talk about these different roles. It almost sounds like we have different horoscope signs, right? Like,
Yeah,
are you
it
the
is a bit like
igniter,
that.
the investigator? But it really is helpful to figure out who the right person on the team is for those kinds of jobs. I mean, even a skeptic, right? You want someone
Mm-hmm.
maybe not at the beginning of the process, but at the end, who's going to kick the tires on this idea,
Yeah.
see if it's really worthwhile before we maybe get to the invest stage.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because the profiling instrument that I've created is, it's not so much a personality assessment, but it's a perception of what you consider your strengths to be. So it's very much behavior or skills driven. And of course, then we can develop other strengths, or we can work. And this is my philosophy: play to your strengths, but never at the expense of what an idea might need to be successful. So if I'm an igniter, which I am, then it's no good me sort of just saying, well, I just want to stay in this land of Ignite because I'm having a great time just generating ideas. The idea needs to move forward. It needs to get into implementation. It needs to be investigated. And I'm not so high on investigate, but I work with great people who are. And that's the way to do it, is to collaborate and work with other people who have strengths in different areas rather than trying to be good at everything. And I say, don't waste your time trying to be well-rounded. Play to your strengths, develop more capability around those, and be mindful of your blind spots so that you can leverage and work with other people.
Yeah, how many times do we wind ourselves up by trying to stick to the areas that we don't have a strength in, when there are probably other people, if we just looked around, who could help us with those opportunities. So can you tell us a little bit, Natalie, about some real world examples where you see this process playing out in a way that's developed some truly interesting innovations?
Well, I can actually share an area that I'm working on right now, which is really fascinating. And one of the things I must mention around the model too, and it links very much in with this case, if you like, that I'll share with you, is purpose. So at the center of the 6 I's, we have purpose. And I talk a lot about purpose-driven innovation. And particularly for our times right now, we need to be thinking about why we're innovating. Not all innovation has a positive impact. And what is the impact that we're trying to create from our new ideas? And a case that I'm working on currently, or we're working on currently, is looking at new models of care and support for people who are older, who are experiencing homelessness or at risk of being homeless. And we're applying the 6 I's on all different facets of that. So first of all, starting to identify where are the opportunities. And we have looked at done an in-depth literature review into an international landscape of what's going on in different countries in this whole area, really trying to understand the needs of people who are very vulnerable, and understanding, well, what are the trends, what are the patterns, what are the statistics of change, and then actually starting to use all of that and to give insight into identifying opportunities and new ideas in the Ignite phase. So we're actually running the 6 I's in an organization to really help them achieve their strategic development, to grow this whole area to become one of the biggest providers of care for homeless people and people who are experiencing homelessness. So it can be used on very specific types of growth areas of opportunity for organizations, but it can also be used just in straight training programs. A lot of organizations will engage us. So the Singapore government is a good example of that. They engage us to train people to understand that innovating is not just about new product development. A lot of it is about digital processes and looking at digitization and how improvements can be made in those sorts of areas. And it doesn't always have to be, the people who are in the innovation department, but across the board, really helping people to understand that everybody has a contribution to make, and innovating in their day-to-day work is very important, not just on projects that are strategic or very specific. So it can be used in different ways. A client once said to me, I like the 6 I's because I can dial it up or I can dial it down. And I can use it in everyday thinking. In 5 minutes, I can run my mind through the 6 I's, or I can use it on a massive strategic change project and actually have all those sort of milestones and steps and phases of the journey.
It sounds almost like it's, as you said, it's a mindset to create a more innovative culture in really any organization. It doesn't have to be for the innovation team per se.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of my work, actually, and our work in the organization has been like that, really. It's been more about helping everybody to understand that innovation is for them, and it can be in a small way. It doesn't have to be in massive step change or technological change, but to really understand that if people are going to be adapting to everything that's going on in their environment and they're going to work differently, then they've got to have I've got to have a mindset that allows them to be able to do that and to have the tools and the confidence to be able to apply different ways of thinking. So they're everyday. Well, I call it everyday innovation. How are you working? How are you innovating in your everyday work so that you can have that sort of smaller incremental changes as much as the larger step change innovation that might be required in an organization as well?
It's one of the things that comes up a lot on this show is also talking about there are some little green monsters that live in the innovation process too. There's a good deal of friction, right? No one's making a promise that innovation happens, right? If we just follow the 6 I's, we'll get there with no friction whatsoever. They're just corporations are made of people, and us people like kicking up challenges wherever we can. How does the 6 I's take into account politics, interference, jealousy, and competing? Everything for me is converging at the invest, competing for budget and results.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting you say that, because one of the things that I actually inspired me, I suppose, years ago to develop this was because I was working as an innovation director, mostly on new product development. And I was realizing that a lot of the time, the ideas, it wasn't there was a lack of ideas, it was that something happened when ideas went back into an organization that would stop those ideas getting out there. And most of it was to do with people. It was to do with leadership, management, organizational structures, ways of working, lack of process. They were all sort of organizational things, really. They weren't necessarily about the idea itself. And I sort of came more from the commercial marketing strategic type background. And little did I know that I was stepping into this world of organizational development and leadership development as well. So that's really what inspired me to create the 6 I's, was to have a model that isn't just about the process, because process is great and we need that because it helps to structure things and organize things and unpack complexity for people. But it's actually the people aspect that's really fundamental. So one of the things that we do in facilitation, if you like, when we're working with people on ideas, is to sort of raise the importance of how are you working, not just what are you doing or what is the activity or the discrete task that you're working on, but how are you working together? What's helping or hindering how you work? What's getting in the way? What are the obstacles? What are the challenges? And to really have that sort of coaching, facilitative approach to surface some of these tensions, because some of the tensions can be really quite good ones in the sense that they really help people to have those conversations with each other that they need to have. And other times there are things that when the tensions are aired, people can say, right, okay, well, we can get rid of that and enable the idea to start to flow more freely. So I would say it's about having that approach to be able to really surface people and help people to be mindful of how they're working and how they're working together so that they can have conversations about ways of working.
Yeah, I like how you're talking about a common language. This is obviously called the Innovation Storytellers Show. And as I'm thinking about these 6 I's, you're giving people a framework to also tell the story to other entities. Like I know trying to pull in the engineering team to help create something when your own innovation team is kind of out of capacity, let's say, you have a common language that you can build the story around that helps take people through the process of where you are in the process and how you get there. I'm big on the C side out of the I's, like the communications layer. Where do you think storytelling layers into the 6 I's? Where can we advise, where we can really help our community of innovators to really think about how to better describe the work that they're doing so that they actually get the investment and the input and the influence to get the next new project?
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things. There is the first thing, I think there's understanding and reflecting on your own work and seeing the story of how you work. So, how do you identify a new opportunity? How do you ignite new ideas and practice creative thinking for addressing that opportunity? How do you investigate? So, sort of looking and thinking about the story that you follow, if you like, through the phases of the journey of a project or an idea. And I actually, we get people to do that and reflect on that in workshops when we sort of, take them through the 6 I's and say, tell a story about something you've created in the past and reflect on each of the phases of that you went through and what happened. Did you actually do all these things, or were some things missed out? Was there a good impact? What was that impact? Did you achieve your purpose? So people start to sort of tell the story through the lens of the 6 I's, if you like. So I think that's one thing that can really help break things down for people and then put it back together again into a story. But I think also, when it comes to that invest stage, the ability to be able to pitch, to really pitch your stories well, to have really clear understanding of who your customer is and what their needs are and what your solution is and why it might benefit not just the customer, but the organization as well. And to help people get succinct at doing that so that they can just write it down in a couple of paragraphs and give them like a little, a template even to help them sort of craft up that language and then be able to practice even sort of speaking it and pitching it to other people. I found that is really useful. And oftentimes people say, wow, that was one of the most useful little tools that I've learned, is how to pitch an idea so that I can actually articulate it clearly to someone else and they get it and they go, okay, yeah. It's a bit like that elevator pitch that we all know. You're in the elevator and you've only got a few seconds to get over your story or what you want for someone to say, yeah, I get that and I'm interested. I'd like to know more.
I actually had a girlfriend who tried out her elevator pitch here in New York in the Empire State Building elevator because she thought she would have the longest ride possible to travel in that elevator. I'm like, I don't think it's supposed to work that way, because that, depending on how many buttons get pushed, that could be a 15-minute elevator ride.
Right. That's brilliant.
Oh, well, Natalie, what else should we know? So is there anything else, any other advice you would give entrepreneurs? You work as a consultant now, 25 years in the space, helping entrepreneurs do this work. What do you think, especially as we're looking ahead now to all things AI, should we be plugging in our 6 I's into ChatGPT and see what artificial intelligence has for us to learn too?
Well, I think AI is obviously a massive field in itself, but I think it's very interesting. From the each of the I's, actually, I think AI can actually help. And I think if you're good at prompting, actually, somebody said to me the other day that, a skill of the future is that we're going to be hiring prompt engineers, the people that are very good at prompting ChatGPT to really get good results out of it, because you've got to know what to write in order to get the good results. But I think, a lot of the AI aspect, particularly of ChatGPT, is it can really help with ideas. I mean, some of the creative ideas it can come up with. So it can be like a sparring partner. And I think if you're an entrepreneur on your own, oftentimes, and you're sort of lacking that creative thinking partner, it can be a great resource to really enable. And also, if you're saying, well, actually, how would I go about testing this? It can give you some ideas too. So definitely lean on some of the intelligence of AI within it. I know I'm also a novelist, and it's quite interesting when you can see how it's also being used in stories around developing ideas for creative thinking and being able to sort of enrich your own thinking alongside it. So hopefully it won't completely replace us and our creative thinking, because I think there's something magical about the imagination and being free to be able to really to be inspired to create from the well of yourself without anything else. But of course, there's going to be so much new development that we probably haven't even got the tip of the iceberg at the moment.
I just read a study this morning that said that they tested AI against top kindergartners to determine what was this who was more creative, and it turned out that AI had impeccable mimicking skills that kids did not,
Mm,
but kids were more creative. They were innovative. They were coming
yeah.
up with new ideas that ChatGPT and other AI devices could not.
Oh, that's good to know. And it's interesting, isn't it?
Um,
Because there have been longitudinal studies, haven't there, on children and shown that the most creative are the 0 to 5-year-olds. I think it's like something like 97 or 98% creativity on natural thinking tests. But by the time they hit the 20s on a longitudinal study, it's like, gone way, way down after we've gone through all of our educational processes, upbringing, socialization, and everything else. But that's good to know. I'm glad that that study is being done, and then I think that also then really helps us to think about, well, how do we keep bolstering that imaginative aspect of the human spirit to keep creating?
Amen. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you the 3 questions I ask every guest on the Innovation Storyteller Show. Number 1, what is the greatest invention of all time?
Wow, the printing press.
Printing press. Yes, Gutenberg. People love the printing press on the show, which is great.
That just came top of mind, talking about stories and
Well,
writing and everything else.
and I love that answer from an author anyway. If you had the chance to join any innovation team in the course of human history, which team would you join?
Wow. Present or past or anything?
In the course of human history, whenever.
Oh, wow. Gosh. Yeah. Well, I think I wouldn't have minded being around then. The whole development of really creating, being able to take language and being able to publish it. I think something in the whole publishing space. That's where I would have, I think, be keen to work in.
And if there's something you wish were invented, something that drives you absolutely crazy, that needs improvement, or something you just wish would exist in the world for all of our mutual benefit, what would that be?
Oh, something that can really sort of help us to be able to listen and understand each other better. Something that I know, maybe some sort of prompter or something that just enables you to stop and really listen and have empathy. I think we need so much more of that these days.
Amen. Amen. What a good message for the holidays, too. A little more
Mm.
empathy for all of us all around. So, Natalie, it's not just that people can learn the 6 I's, right? And then maybe even read your book and follow along, but there's an opportunity to even take the 6 I's to a bigger platform, right? You're now working on a certification program, or you have a certification program that allows this to kind of cascade through an entire organization. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite interesting actually, because when I wrote the book, Yes, You Can Innovate, I started to have, people contact me. So, I read your book at the airport. That thing you always hope for or wish for as an author. I read your book at the airport. I really like it. I'd like to get it more into my organization. And so I used to run a face-to-face program, both in Singapore and in England, over 4 days. And then obviously when COVID hit, I created it into a virtual talk program, and then I've innovated again and created it into a hybrid program now, so it can go global and people can have video-based training plus live coaching with me and with a group. And people then can learn deeply about the 6 I's, how to apply it both for individuals and also for team development as well as for projects, so that they can use it either in their organizations if they're in-house, normally people who are working in the innovation space or in leadership development or organizational development, and also people who are working as consultants or coaches in that space as well, and are looking for new tools or new approaches that they can use with their clients. So absolutely, it's now the way that it's growing around the world, and other people are now using the 6 I's through that mechanism.
Wow, what an impact that's going to have.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
Great. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for being with me on the Innovation Storyteller Show today. whether it's the certification course or through your books, yes, you can innovate or unleash your voice, powerful public speaking for every woman. Please go ahead and pick up Natalie's books and reach out to Natalie. Natalie, where's the best place for people to find you?
I would say LinkedIn is probably the best place. Send me a message on LinkedIn. That's great. Or you can have a look. I've got a number of websites. I have a natalie-turner.net, which is my site, and then 6-I-innovation.com, which is all about the 6 I's. And yes, you can innovate also has its own website as well.
Fantastic. And we'll include all that good stuff in the show notes. Natalie Turner, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks, Susan. It's been great being here with you.